My HOA tried to foreclose on my house, so I liquidated their entire reserve. $1.4 million. That's what the forensic audit found missing from my HOA's reserve account when the dust settled. 3 board members face criminal referrals. The president had to sell her own house, all because she filed a $4,800 lien on mine over the wrong shade of beige. I'm 44, forensic accountant for a mid-sized insurance carrier in Phoenix. I investigate financial fraud for a living, embezzlement, kited checks, ghost vendors, the whole bouquet. 12 years on the job. My wife and I bought our place 8 years ago in a quiet master plan community out near the foothills. Diane Whitfield was the HOA board president. Had been for 14 years. Unopposed. She drove a personalized golf cart around the cul-de-sacs with a clipboard and a measuring tape. Signed every email in service of standards, Diane. And once issued a violation notice for a Halloween skeleton being unseasonably displayed on November 2nd. The first time we met, she walked up our driveway uninvited and said, "We're a community of standards here. I trust you understand what that means." I told my wife she seemed harmless. The bylaws on Diane's shelf in the navy 3-ring binder she carried everywhere contained a clause I wouldn't read until 2 years later. Section 8(4)(c). I'll come back to that. Last spring, we repainted our fence. The community color palette listed sandstone beige as approved. We used sandstone beige. Diane drove by, parked her cart, and pulled out a paint chip card. "This isn't sandstone," she said. "This is sandstone tan, different SKU." I checked, same Sherwin-Williams code, same chip, she insisted. The following week a violation letter arrived, $50 fine plus $25 per day until full compliance. We ignored it. We were right. By August, the fine had compounded through escalation clauses, administrative review fees, and covenant enforcement processing to $4,832. In September, the HOA recorded a lien against our property. In October, their attorney sent a letter on firm letterhead. Pursuant to Section 5.2 of the CC and RS, the association will commence non-judicial foreclosure proceedings on the above-referenced property if the outstanding balance is not satisfied within 30 days. Foreclosure. Over a paint color that wasn't even wrong. I read the letter twice. I didn't call my wife. I didn't reply. I walked to the bookshelf, pulled out our closing day copy of the bylaws every homeowner gets one, and turned to Section 8(4)(c). Section 8(4)(c). Any homeowner in good standing may petition the board for a forensic financial audit upon documented presentation of material financial irregularity. The board shall respond within 60 days. Failure to respond constitutes affirmative referral to the State Department of Real Estate. The bylaws Diane waved like scripture contained the exact mechanism to investigate her. I didn't file the petition yet. I needed evidence first. Arizona requires HOAs to produce 7 years of financial records to any homeowner on written request. I sent the request, certified mail, on a Monday. Diane's response 3 days later. Unusual ask, but we have nothing to hide. That weekend, I sat at my dining table with 83 pages of treasurer's reports, board meeting minutes, and an Excel export of the operating account. 3 things popped immediately. The reserve fund, for the 2017 reserve study, should have held roughly $891,000 by now. The most recent statement showed $74,200. There had been no reserve study filed since 2017. Arizona law requires one every 5 years. And $487,000 in infrastructure improvements. Over 6 years had no attached invoices, no contractor names, no bid documentation. What I didn't know yet was who had been getting paid. I cross-referenced the operating account's vendor payments against Arizona Corporation Commission filings. The largest single vendor over 6 years $1.24 million in cumulative payments, was a company called Whitfield Property Services, LLC. Sole member, Bradley Whitfield, Deanne's husband. No bid process. No conflict of interest disclosure in any board minutes. The contract had been renewed annually by a board where Diane voted yes every time. I kept pulling threads. 2 other board members had relatives on the payroll. The treasurer, Marlene, had paid her son's consulting firm $61,000 over 4 years for communication services. The community newsletter was a Word document she emailed once a quarter. The reserve fund hadn't been spent down. It had been rooted. This wasn't a vendetta anymore. It was a 14-year embezzlement scheme operating under the cover of paint chip enforcement. And Diane had just filed a lien on the wrong forensic accountant. I filed the Section C petition the next morning with a 31-page evidence packet. Side-by-side payment ledgers, ACC filings, missing reserve studies, and a conflict of interest matrix. The board's response was to ignore it. Day 61, I filed parallel complaints with the Arizona Department of Real Estate, the Attorney General's HOA ombudsman, and because Whitfield Property Services had been paid via interstate wire, the IRS. Same packet. Certified mail. Signed delivery receipts. The Dreyeri opened an investigation in 12 days. They subpoenaed 7 years of bank records and hired an independent forensic CPA who confirmed everything I'd flagged and found more. $214,000 in personal charges run through the HOA Amex, a Cabo timeshare, Diane's daughter's wedding caterer, a jet ski. Final tally, $1,408,000 in misappropriated funds, $487,000 in unbid infrastructure spending, 23 undisclosed conflicts of interest, 3 referrals for criminal prosecution. The civil settlement, filed in Maricopa County, ordered the HOA to make full restitution to the reserve fund, pay $340,000 in plaintiff legal fees and state penalties, and cover an additional $86,000 in fines. The HOA had $74,000 left in the reserve and $31,000 in operating. To satisfy the judgment, the court ordered total liquidation of every association account, and because the bylaws barred a special assessment for board misconduct, personal liability against 3 sitting board members. Deanne, Marlene, and the secretary signed personal payment plans or faced wage garnishment. The foreclosure action against my house, dismissed with prejudice. The HOA's attorney withdrew the lien, issued a written apology on firm letterhead, and cut me a check for $43,200 in legal and consulting fees. I framed the check, above the fence. Diane was removed by emergency homeowner vote in March. She listed her house in May, couldn't carry the personal judgment plus property taxes. It sold in July, below market. Marlene moved to Nevada. Bradley's LLC is dissolved. The IRS investigation is ongoing. The new board passed a transparency amendment requiring quarterly open audits. Vote was unanimous. Here's the part I love. The family that bought Diane's old place repainted her fence last fall. They picked a shade off the approved palette. I'd volunteered as the new compliance inspector. I drove past with a clipboard. It was sandstone tan, not sandstone beige. I let it go. I never raised my voice, never knocked on her door. I just read the binder she'd been waving at people for 14 years and used Section 8, 4, C exactly as written. Did I take it too far?